After that very energetic exchange with my brother Michael, I got down to the nitty-gritty business of explaining my disappearance, regaling my mother and Michael with the story that I had already told my father, and the events that transpired after it. "Son of a bitch!" Michael shouted angrily. "So it was Alexander? That crooked, two-faced! All the years he spent smiling at me, and he planned to do me in too. Now I wish you would have dropped him," Michael said furiously. "I already told you, Michael, that wouldn't work. There's just too much to be lost in a direct, unmasked death at my hands. Too many ways that it could fall back on you, Mom, Dad. I'm not saying I'm gonna let that bastard slide, but for the moment, we have to keep our wits about us. Alexander thinks he's got the edge. He's used to playing this game with civilized people. But trust me when I tell you, I've spent my entire life in the Yellow District. Civilized ain't a big part of my life out there. I've had to deal with rats just like him for a decade, bro. All of them cutthroat, lunatic, backstabbing, treacherous snakes. The only difference between them and him is he's got more cash. The environment's a little bit different, but the game remains the same. From here on out, all of you are gonna have increased security. You're gonna have to. Sorry if that's a bit of an inconvenience, I said, looking between my mother and Michael. I know. It's gotta be that way, right? Can't have him catching someone off guard. "Oh, is this gonna ruin your dates?" Lilith said, smiling and chuckling. "Oh, shut up, Lilith," Michael replied, upset and looking away, pouting a bit. "I don't know what you're so happy about," I said, turning to Lilith. "What? What are you talking about?" "You're getting increased security too." "What? No way," Lilith replied. "I have far too many things to do. To be dealing with some lackeys following me around. How am I supposed to be a good snoop? I'm a professional private investigator. Not being seen and sneaking around is sort of in my job description. There's no need to have me followed or guarded." "Well, I'm sorry to upset you, but Alexander might target anyone close to us, anyone that we find important, anyone we care about, and that includes you, Lilith. I know you have a job that you like and want to keep doing. But I also like you and want you to keep doing that thing. What was it called again? Oh yeah, breathing. If Alexander gets his hands on you, he'll have a powerful bartering chip. He knows neither myself nor the rest of the family wants you dead. You're a close family friend. You have been for over a decade. We were friends since we were kids. And there's no way that he doesn't realize that. So, just like a member of the family, you're in danger. You're gonna need protection." This is so frustrating. Is this really gonna get in the way of my work? I had so many jobs lined up. I was just thinking I could start to clear my schedule. I was spending so much of my time working my way through fakes and imposters of you, doing research, checking mercenaries, transit records, dating back to the date that you disappeared, doing everything I could to try to track you down. And now that I don't have to do any of it anymore, I was finally thinking I was going to be able to take on some more high-profile gigs. You know, really spread my wings as a private detective. And now I have to deal with a homicidal millionaire. Wonderful. Sorry, Lilith, but them's the breaks. I guess you'll just have to stay safe for the time being. But Gabriel, how can you be sure that Alexander will do any of this? I mean, now that we know, doesn't it seem reasonable to think that he would hesitate, refrain from taking any actions? Now that we know that he's the one we have to track it back to, it would make it simple. At least, I think, my mother said, crossing her arms as she tried to think it over. Sorry, but it doesn't work that way, Mom. When it comes to shady back alley deals, assassinations, and dirty work being done, they don't tend to leave paper trails. And Alexander is financially wealthy. He could expend a countless amount of assets in different directions and make it almost impossible to track. Spending money in gambling. All he has to do is suggest he took a major loss at a casino, and suddenly, a large sum of money spent on an assassination attempt is perfectly reasonable to explain away why it's no longer in his possession. He just lost it on a bad hand of cards. That's only one of countless fraudulent excuses he could use to cover up his real actions and where his money's really going. There's absolutely no guarantee that we'll ever be able to track anything that he sends our way back to him. We can't count on catching him in the act. We have to be prepared to take movements and actions of our own. Force his hand. Force him to make stupid choices. Alexander is a businessman. He's used to suit and ties, casting orders, getting other people to do his dirty work. But he's never had to deal with someone like me. Or should I say us? Myself, Emily, and the rest of my little crew aren't from Newgate City. We're from the rough and tumble Yellow District. We live in a world of violence, death, destruction, shady deals, and weighted negotiations. Moving in secret or attacking with great force. We're exceptionally experienced with all of it. Alexander is going to quickly find that with me here, the game has drastically changed. He's no longer fighting someone who's used to handling things above board, of finding reasonable compromises and making fair deals. No, now he's dealing with somebody who knows a shady deal when they see one, who isn't afraid to kill if it comes right down to it, and won't hesitate to do so. In those terms, we actually have the advantage on Alexander. He may be willing to cast the order to kill, but he has no experience in bloodshed himself. It upsets me so to hear you talking like this, my mother said, looking down at the floor. Even hearing the story that you told, it horrifies me that you had to live a life like that. I know, Mom. And trust me, it's left its scars. But right now it's an asset. One that we can use to our advantage. And that we're going to. Alexander picked a fight over a decade ago. He started a death match with the Moon family. And it's a match he's about to lose. Trust me, he's gonna pay. After that, we spent a bit more time talking to one another, working over the changes to our lives that were going to take place. And eventually, once all the business was over, started to spend more time just talking, reconnecting. Even Lilith and Emily joined in, as we had food and drinks delivered to my father's office, and we spent the rest of the night there, just talking and laughing, drinking, having a good time in general. I have to say that it was nice. Nice to be able to spend time with my family. To have a family again. But eventually, the night grew on, and myself and Emily had to retire, as well as the rest of my family and Lilith. I told my father that I'd be staying in the estate with the rest of my team. It would be better if we were close by. Being scattered out only made us weaker. We were stronger when we worked together. So, using the plans that we had already talked about, we established having all the goods and materials that I'd need to start my work delivered to the estate, where we'd set up a secondary shop and also arranged to have Titan delivered there. And finally, me and Emily exited to the roof, taking an air transport back to the new estate that we'd be staying in.